Fanatics also reported a 100% increase in sales for WNBA specific merchandise. It started with Caitlin Clark. And so now that we know all of this, and we've known that for months, now we get to turn around and look and see what exactly is it that the league will do knowing that she's out for the next 2 weeks. I'm not saying I know for sure what's going to happen, but I have an idea.
Just when you thought the WNBA was finally figuring things out, just when you thought they were ready to ride the golden wave that is Caitlin Clark straight to the promised land of mainstream relevance and financial success, they go and let this happen. And by this, I mean the injury that is every basketball fan, every sports analyst, and yes, even Stephen Smith himself absolutely losing their minds.
Unfortunately, though, the celebration in the WNBA, it was cut short yesterday afternoon as WNBA players learned the harsh lesson: be careful what you wish for. Headline at the New York Post: Caitlin Clark sidelined with Indiana Felines announcing shock injury. Keyword: shock. This injury was shocking, but not for reasons that you may think.
Caitlin Clark, the woman who single-handedly turned women's basketball from a niche sport that your basketball-obsessed cousin watches into appointment television that has people canceling dinner plans, is now sitting on the sidelines with a left quad strain 2 weeks minimum. They say 2 weeks of the WNBA try and pretend that losing their biggest star, their golden goose, their literal ratings magnet, isn't going to send their viewership numbers tumbling faster than a house of cards in a hurricane.
Everybody was moving Caitlin Clark games to bigger facilities because everyone was selling tickets. There were ratings. It was a ratings bonanza. Now with Caitlin Clark not playing, what do? Well, when you change your situs, guess what? You can't change it back.
Yep. The tickets are literally half the price, and there are entire sections of the stadium that have not sold any tickets.
And who's the first person to absolutely explode about this? Who's the first person to call out the insanity of the situation? None other than Stephen A. Smith, the man who's been defending Caitlin Clark since day one, while half the WNBA establishment was acting like she was some sort of basketball tourist who accidentally wandered into their league.
Thanks to Clark, Indiana led the league in attendance both at home and on the road. The Fever averaged 17,035 fans at home and over 15,000 on the road. 4 teams moved home games to bigger arenas when Indiana came to town to accommodate more fans. That's about Caitlin Clark. How do we know this? Attendance for the entire league was up nearly 50% last year, according to data from across the timeline, and Indiana led all teams with an average attendance of 17,035. That was up 319% from the year earlier.
Stephen didn't just comment on this injury. He went absolutely nuclear. And honestly, it's about time someone did. Because while everyone else is tiptoeing around the obvious, trying to be politically correct, and pretending that Caitlin Clark isn't literally carrying this league on her back, Stephen is out here stating facts that would make a mathematician weep with joy we'll find out we don't know yet. Stephen said when asked how much of a blow Clark's injury is to the WNBA, but I'm going to be really interested in seeing what kind of effect this has on the WNBA's ratings. Because if for some reason there is a precipitous drop off, then everybody needs to stand down.
We'll find out. We don't know yet, but I'm going to be really interested in seeing, Molly, what kind of effect this has on the WNBA's ratings. Because if for some reason there is a precipitous drop off, then everybody needs to stand down and recognize the fact that the speculation or the assertions and assumptions about her being the golden goose is validated.
If you are enjoying, please subscribe. Oh, Stephen, you beautiful logical genius. Because that's exactly what's going to happen, isn't it? The man is practically sitting there with a stopwatch ready to document the exact moment the WNBA realizes they've been taking their most valuable asset for granted. It's like watching someone ignore a pot of gold while complaining about being broke. And Stephen is a guy standing there yelling, the gold is right there. Let's talk numbers for a hot second, because apparently some people in the WNBA front office need a calculator, and a reality check games featuring Caitlin Clark this season have averaged 178 million viewers games, without her a measly 394,000 viewers. That's not just a difference, that's a 199% gap. That's so wide you could drive a freight train through it. To put this in perspective, that even the most mathematically challenged sport executive could understand Clark's games draw 3 times more viewers than games without her 3 times.
Became the first rookie with at least 25 points, 5 assists, and 5 rebounds in a playoff game. That was Caitlin Clark. Became the 4th different rookie to play all 40 minutes in a playoff game. That was her. I'm looking at other things. 6 different league television partners. This is last year. This is last season, because this is the Caitlin Clark that we're talking about. 6 different league television partners set viewership records that year, her rookie year, for its highest viewed WNBA game. Do you know every one of those games included the Indiana Fever?
But here's where it gets really spicy, folks. Stephen Smith isn't just upset about the injury. He's been building up to this moment for months. This is a man who's watched the WNBA stumble over itself, try to figure out how to handle their biggest star. He's seen legendary players like Cheryl Swoops acting like Clark was some sort of interloper rather than the savior the league desperately needed. He's watched the league's leadership, including Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, give lukewarm responses when they should have been planning ticker tape parades. And now with Clark injured, Stephen is essentially saying, "I told you so," in the most dramatic way possible, and recognize the fact that the speculation or the assertions and assumptions about her being the golden goose is validated. Stephen continued, "And if that happens, then you know that you ride that wave.
Rising tide lifts all boats. And if this is the magnetic traction that draws viewers to the WNBA, and her absence over the next 2 weeks due to that quad strain is providing further evidence of that, then everybody needs to accept it, stand down, and ride that wave." I'm going to be really interested in seeing how the ratings are going to look without her over the next 2 weeks. Let's make sure we come back and ask me this exact same question after she's been gone for those 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Let's rewind for a moment and talk about how we got here. When Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA, she became a one-woman economic stimulus package, the season opener between Clark's Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky drew 2. 7 million viewers on ABC, the most watched WNBA game on ESPN platforms ever. That number isn't just impressive, it's borderline miraculous for a league that's been fighting for relevance for over 2 decades. But here's the kicker. Instead of the WNBA brass falling to their knees and thanking whatever basketball gods delivered this gift to them, we got this instead. Lukewarm press releases generic. Social media posts like they were embarrassed by their own success, too scared to admit that one player could make such a massive difference. Stephen A. Smith saw this happening in real time and has been slowly building toward a volcanic eruption of frustration. He's watched Clark break viewership records, pack arenas, and essentially drag the WNBA into mainstream consciousness, all while certain players and pundits acted like she didn't deserve the attention.
We know what she brings to the table, but people wanted to hate because why? You had a bunch of players in this league that watched this young white girl come along and take the league by storm. And they resented it because they saw the marketing prowess that she had. They ignored the fact that you got chartered flights because of this girl. They ignored the fact that ratings were going through the roof because of this girl. Instead, they resented it because they said, yo, we were doing stuff long before Caitlin Clark got here, and y'all wasn't paying attention then. But now the young white girl comes along and y'all want to sit up there and shower all of this praise and all of this attention that was earned before she ever came along. The resentment is understandable, but it's not about Caitlin Clark. It's about what she represents. My point is, grow up.
The man has been defending Clark against critics who seem more interested in protecting their own egos than celebrating the rising tide that was lifting all boats. When former WNBA players started throwing shade and acting resentful instead of grateful, Stephen was there calling it out. They act like there isn't or hasn't been legitimate resentment. Stephen said, referencing Clark's vocal critics, but nobody's fooled here. And now we get to watch Stephen's prediction play out in real time, because Clark isn't just missing any old game, she's missing marquee matchups that were supposed to be television gold. The highly anticipated rematch against Angel Reed and the Chicago Sky gone multiple nationally televised games that networks were counting on for ratings, poof, the financial implications are staggering. When you really think about it, the Indiana Fever isn't just losing their best player, they're losing their primary revenue. Generator Clark isn't just the team's leading scorer and assist. Leader, she's literally the reason people buy tickets, tune in on television, and purchase merchandise. Without her, the Fever goes from must-see TV to just another WNBA team that most casual fans couldn't pick out a lineup.
Look, I think Stephen A is 100% correct on this. At the end of the day, you already see people actually saying, hey, I'm not watching for 2 weeks. I'm not tuning in for 2 weeks. And it's really bad news for the Mystics and the Sky, because both of those teams move those games to big arenas. So it's like, now that she's not playing, what is that attendance going to look like? The viewership, right? The viewership is going to plummet. I already know, because the majority of the people that's watching the Indiana Fever wants to see Caitlin Clark. And sad to say it, a lot of them only want to see Caitlin Clark. They don't really care about the entire team.
But here's where Stephen's frustration really reaches a boiling point. This was all preventable. Not the injury itself. Injuries happen in sports. But the league's complete failure to protect and prioritize their most valuable asset throughout Clark's rookie year. And into the new season, she's been taking hits that would make NFL linebackers lose flagrant fouls, dangerous plays, reckless targeting. And what did the WNBA do? They act like it was just part of the game. Stephen has been watching this happen and probably screaming at his television like the rest of us. Here's a player who's literally transforming the league's fortune. And instead of wrapping her in bubble wrap and treating her like the priceless commodity she is, a WNBA let opponents treat her like a punching bag. It's malpractice. On a corporate level, the numbers don't lie. And Stephen knows that Clark's most recent game before the injury loss to the New York Liberty still drew 22 million viewers on CBS, making it the second most watched WNBA game ever on the network. Even in defeat, even in a close loss, Clark was pulling numbers that most WNBA games could only dream of achieving.
The Fever and the Liberty peaking at 3.2 million viewers. 3.2. And again, second most viewed game on CBS ever. I have no idea what the most viewed game was ever.
Now imagine those same time slots. Without Clark, imagine trying to explain to television executives why ratings just dropped by 200%. Imagine trying to convince sponsors that the WNBA is still worth their investment when their biggest draw is sitting on the bench in street clothes. Stephen doesn't have to imagine it. He's about to watch it happen. And he's going to document every painful ratings point drop with the glee of a man who's been proven right about everything he's been saying for months. But here's the really infuriating part, that as Stephen fired up, this could have been avoided if the WNBA had just listened. If they had treated Clark like the transcendent star she obviously is, instead of trying to downplay her impact. If they had protected her better, promoted her more aggressively, and acknowledged what she was bringing to the table, instead of acting like her success was somehow accidental. The Clark effect isn't just about individual games, it's about the entire ecosystem of women's basketball. When she plays, people who never watched the WNBA before suddenly become invested. When she's injured, those same people are going to tune out faster than you can say quad strain. And once they're gone, getting them back is going to be nearly impossible.
You literally cannot make this up. When she's not playing, ticket prices, merchandise sales plummet. Viewership declines when she is not suited up in uniform. The numbers do not lie, guys. Caitlin Clark is the biggest box office attraction in the WNBA, period. Facts over feeling.
Stephen understands this in a way that apparently the WNBA leadership doesn't. He sees the bigger picture. Clark isn't just a player, she's a phenomenon. She's the bridge between the WNBA's past struggles and its potential future success. And now that bridge is temporarily down for repairs, leaving the league stranded on the wrong side of irrelevance. The truly maddening part, this was all predictable when you have a player drawing ratings at rival NBA games, when you have someone single-handedly changing the entire conversation around women's basketball. You protect that investment. You don't let opponents hack and grab and commit flagrant fouls without serious consequences. You don't treat your golden goose like any other player, but the WNBA did exactly that. And now Stephen is sitting there with an "I told you." So that's an echo for weeks, because when those ratings come in for games without Clark, when the viewership Numbers crashed back down to pre-Clark levels. Steven is going to be the first person to point out that this was entirely predictable and entirely preventable. The fan reaction is already telling the story Clark's fan, based on millions of people who started watching the WNBA specifically because of her already talking about boycotting games until she returned. Social media is filled with fans saying they won't tune in to watch inferior basketball without the player who made them care about the league in the first place.
I mean, with Caitlin Clark being out of the picture, you know what's already happened in the WNBA? Yeah, that's right. Those ticket prices went way, 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 way down. And you would think most of the ladies in the league would want to wish Caitlin a very speedy and successful recovery, because without her in that league, it's going back to where it was before she even got drafted to the NBA.